What is up everyone? I am back on the mic today from Spectral Sound, and today I'm going to show you how I recreated the main Screeching Pluck bass from the song Final Boss by Excision and Dion Timmer. I think you guys are gonna like this one. This is what the original sounds like. Got me feeling like a boss. And this is my recreation right here in Serum. Awesome stuff. Now this sound is very, very simple. Like there's not much to this sound. I mean, I just have a high pass filter for the post-processing. That's all it is, just because the sub was a little messy. Because when you make these pluck basses, especially the screechy ones when you're doing FM, you have to have a low oscillator, FM'd by a higher oscillator. And the low oscillator is outputting sub bass that can be very, very messy. So cutting the sub here was kind of crucial. I didn't cut it all the way, because the lower frequencies in this low, mid, high bass area did add to the plucking element of the sound. It would just add that much more power behind it. So I just cut it like very sub bass. Apart from that, this sound is pure Serum. All right, so here's the patch with everything off. Before we get into creating the sound, I just want to go over these LFOs. There are 3 of them. The first one is going to be the main LFO that's controlling most of the sounds and, volume level. You can see it's just a normal kind of classic plucky shape here. And I have there's a little break at the beginning, and then it slides up at the very bottom, goes to the middle, and then this is right to the edge. So that kind of just increases the pluck effect, having just a little bit of motion and then it goes up. That, small little reverse, you can't tell that it's there, but it adds that much more kind of power and force to the sound when it's plucking. So I like doing that with these kind of basses. It is on trigger and on 1/16 notes for the rate. So that's just a really fast motion there. For LFO 2, we just have this kind of gliding up shape right here. These are right at 50% and this one is down all the way. It's on 1/4 and it's on envelope. So once we play a note, it's going to follow up on this shape and then it's going to just stay there. This is going to be for the attack of the sound. It's like, that's what that's going to be right there. That's what that's going to control. And right now, I'll just show you how to do that in the matrix. Let's see, find LFO 2. Here we are. So select LFO 2 for the source. For the destination, select the master tune under the global tab. And then we're just going to do classic kind of motion here. It's going up 28. And this is on bipolar. So right in the center is where there's like nothing gained. Nothing is happening when the motion is right in the center. But when it's higher or lower in this spectrum right here, that's when things are going to change. So it starts out low and glides up right to the center pitch right there. That is all you have to do for that. And LFO 3 is just going to be this shape. We are only going to apply that to one thing to enhance the pluck of the sound. And that's going to be the EQ later on when we get into the effects. So now let's start making sound. Let's flip on Oscillator A and choose the basic WRD in the analog tab right there. And that should look something like this. It looks kind of like a warped basic shapes that are crossfaded into each other. So we're just going to choose the shape between a sine wave, or a triangle wave and a square wave. It's a triangle wave like just beginning to slide up to a square wave. So the wavetable position for that is 51%. So we just get this little kind of geometric looking shape here. I have the FM from B turned on at 26%, going up 24 with LFO 1. And the level, I'm doing the classic modulation from 0 up 75 because this is a pluck bass. Bring that down 2 octaves and now we have the carrier for the modulator. That's really nothing so far, but that's what's creating the weird sub bass that I cut later on. So for Oscillator B, we are going to turn that on and select basic shapes. You can ignore the basic shapes too. That's just something I did. And we're just gonna go all the way to the very end for this square saw kind of mix waveform here. I don't know the technical name for it, but I don't even know if there is a technical name because this isn't used in almost any other plugin, I don't think. We're going to bump this up 2 octaves. The level is going to be all the way down, but I'm modulating it up just 20% with LFO 1. Because normally when you're doing FM, you turn Oscillator B or whatever oscillator you're using as the modulator, you turn it down because you don't want it to output sound because you're just getting the FM from it. But in this situation, it did add a nice layer because it is, right in key, and it added just, a few extra frequencies up top. So I just bumped it up, not nearly as much as Oscillator A, but just up 20% with LFO 1 there. I have the sync on. It's just a normal sync, not any of the half window or the full window or anything. I have it going from 0 up to 36, so we're getting this kind of motion. And that'll just, you know, that just gives the sound a higher timbre. You know, it's if I didn't have sync on, let me turn that off, it would sound something like this. Which it just sounds a little bland, you know? So this adds just a little more screech and a little more flair to the overall, you know, timbre of the sound. Both oscillators are going through a comb positive filter in the flanges tab right there. It's just the very first one. And this is going to add to the metallic kind of element that the sound has. So I have the cutoff here at 191 hertz. The resonance is going from 7% up 38. So you can see it's going from very low to very high. And I didn't want to keep the resonance very high because then you get that kind of metallic decay sound that I didn't want to decay too long. I wanted the metallic sound only there when it was at its full plucking, you know, force. So I have the pan up at 79%. That just adds a little more stereo width. As when you're doing, you know, comb filters and flanges and reverb filters and stuff like that, you know, really just frequent filters. Turning the pan just a little bit, you know, not all the way, can add a very nice stereo image to your sound. So that's what I wanted to achieve right there. The drive is going from 0 to 100%, and that is going to greatly increase the plucking power of the sound. You know, the drive is basically like mild saturation, not nearly as much as the distortion tab in the effects section, but it is saturation, and it does add a lot of, you know, meat to the sound. That's what I'm doing there. I was modulating this because I was trying out different filters, but it's doing absolutely nothing, so we can just take off that modulation. And the mix is all the way up, and this is what we get. Cool, that is very loud. I'm probably going to turn that down for you guys, but for me, it is a lot louder than the other sound. Let's go into the effects section and make it even louder with a compressor, because why not? Flip on multiband here. The threshold is at -6.2, and I believe everything else is normal. It should all be normal. Yeah, it's all normal. Everything else is fine. And you can hear this just greatly increases the, you know, plucking, really snappy tone of the sound. There we go. We are clipping a bit, but we'll fix that later when we go into distortion. That's a really, really powerful sound. Let's add a little bit of width here with the hyperdimension. I have the mix at 28%. The dimension size is down to 0, and I turn the mix up just 33. So nothing crazy going on here, just a little more width in the stereo image. All right, cool. Let's throw on distortion to kind of quiet this down, to just tame it and add a little more crunchiness in the higher end. So the drive is at 0 going up 60 on the hard clip algorithm right here. And what the hard clip does is basically, you can see like what it looks like here. It's, you know, no distortion is happening when the sound is at its lower volumes. It's only at the highest point when it comes in and slams it down and starts distorting. So I didn't want it to distort when it's quieter, because when you have the plucky motion, it gets to a point in the downslope, like right here, where the sound is quieter. I didn't want almost any distortion there. I wanted it to distort and declip a little bit right here. So that's the reason why I chose the hard clip distortion for that. After disto, this is what we have. All right, that really tamed in and controlled the sound a lot more, so that's cool. It is a little dull, however. There is not a ton of high end, at least not as much as in the original sound. So we're gonna fix that with this EQ right here. So I'm only using this side of the EQ right here, and that is just a peaking EQ. I have the frequency way up there at 11,316, and the Q factor is at 29%. And what this is doing, I'm modulating the gain here. This is where LFO3 comes in. It's modulating from 0.8 up 12. So it's gonna be doing this really sharp plucking motion, even sharper than what this is right here. And that's gonna really increase the high end of the click and make it a lot more powerful. You can create this general shape. You know, all you have to do is hold Alt and then drag on. Let me just do it on LFO4 and drag on, and now you have that. Then all you have to do is go in, you see, and you can just tighten it up a bit, do something like this, just to get basically the same shape. And when you do that, it's also gonna copy all the settings as far as rate and stuff like that. For our last two effects are gonna be a delay and reverb. For the delay, this is a very important part because it's going to really increase the metallic timbre of the sound. The feedback is at 26%, and I have link turned on. I turned BPM off for this one because I wanted some lower, you know, more specific time variables. I put both sides on 18.67. If you just put one side, the other side will follow because it's linked. And you can see I'm doing like nothing with the filter here. There's like nothing going on. I do have it on normal though. That's very important because if you did it on anything else, you'd get a really kind of either messy sound, like a super mono sound for tap delay, or a super stereo sound for ping pong. And this wasn't a really, really stereo sound. And especially because I have the mix all the way up, this is what it sounds like. If you were to select any of the other types, it would either sound really dull with the tap delay or super stereo wide and lose its plucking element with the ping pong. So the normal is really the only way to use this filter. Use the filter? Normal is really the only way to use the delay in this situation. And you can hear, especially when I turn the feedback up, that it adds a really, you know, rich metallic tone. And you could do whatever you wanted with that. Like, I love that effect. Like, it wasn't used that much in the original sound. I only put it at like 26%. But I love that effect. Like, if I was going to use this in a song, I'd probably be automating that feedback and doing more with that because that's just awesome. Finally, let's wrap it all up with a little bit of reverb. Throw it on the plate reverb. The size is at 24%. I didn't put any pre-delay. I don't usually like to put pre-delay. And the low cut is at 13%. Just get rid of those low frequencies that we don't want reverbed. The high cut is at 30% to just make sure it's not, you know, too piercing in the high end, at least the reverb. Flip the width all the way up to get the full stereo image and drop the mix down to 15%. If you just want a subtle reverb, you don't want a huge reverb, you know, between, you know, 10% and 20% is a good kind of range to shoot for. It really does depend on the sound, but I could hear this sound had a bit of reverb. It wasn't super audible, like they didn't make it a main part and they didn't really automate the mix or anything like that in the actual track. So I just threw it in at 15% and it sounds pretty nice. All right, that wraps up this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the sound recreation, drop a like below. Tell me what you thought about it in the comments. Be sure to check me out on SoundCloud, Instagram, join my Facebook group. Links to those are in the description below. Also, if you want to download the preset, you can do that as well. Link is also in the description. Thank you all so much for your support and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.